So this is a letter to your God on the inheritance of monsters. History. When stripped of its marble and rhetoric is a morgue. The bodies are cataloged under different banners: empire, faith, revolution, progress, but the cause of death never changes. Ownership. Always ownership. The oldest addiction. The same sickness that began when one man carved his name into the dust and called it land, when another carved God's name into his chest and called it truth. It is the same line that stretches from Agate to Ontario, from Uruk Ziggurats to Sault Ste. Marie's boarded windows, and the same pale hands hold the pen that writes it. Once there were Gutians, a people like described as human in instinct, but canine in intelligence with monkey features. The first feral inheritors of empire, tearing Agate to famine and ruin. I have come to recognize them in boardrooms, in parliament, in the sanctimonious grin of a judge who refuses obedience for law, confuses obedience for law. They always come back wearing newer suits, speaking newer tongues, the same hunger dressed in softer skin. Every epoch breeds its Gutians. They're not monsters by nature, but by inheritance. A pathology passed down like wealth, like religion, like the inherited blindness of a dynasty that mistakes longevity for legitimacy. Note to self. Even monsters have fathers. The disease of ownership is a family heirloom. So when I speak of Persians or Jesuits or Armenians or the Mafia, do not think of ethnicity but of empire, of that timeless fraternity of men who see dominion as a birthright and cruelty as commerce. They build their kingdoms on the bones of others, mistaking the stench of rot for incense. And every time they fall, they call it tragedy when it's merely arithmetic. You cannot build a heaven from a ledger. You cannot kill enough to become eternal. Genghis Khan carved his gospel into the steppe with blood. Joshua raged and waged his God's wars on children. King emperors gilded their cruelty in ceremony. They all spoke the same tongue of divine possession. They all died believing they were chosen. But what they built were only mausoleums of obedience, elaborate self-consuming rituals meant to disguise their fear of irrelevance. And now their ghosts walk among us in new vestments. Oligarchs, politicians, tech prophets, televangelists, corporate saints, each one whispering that progress requires sacrifice, that your silence is civic duty, that your suffering is the price of civilization. Aww. Note to self. Civilization is just a polite word for organized suffering. And you, my new Gutians, you continue the inheritance. You torture the living to feed your illusion of control. You rename slavery as economy, manipulation as governance, exploitation as faith. You forget that to own something is to become responsible for its ruin. You devour the earth and call it dominion. You destroy the land and call it development. You turn the air itself into a currency, and then when it chokes you, you blame the wind. This is why I pity you. Because you mistake your self-destruction for strength. You call it destiny. This hunger has no end. You look at your lineage of killers and conquerors and you say, we are the chosen ones to continue this. But what you are choosing is extinction, self-extinction, your own prophecy, written in the ruins you worship. You are killing yourselves with the same reverence that priests reserve for prayer. And when I say that nothing less than the air owns you, I mean it. Because air, unlike you, does not possess. It moves, it renews, it circulates. You who fear the void cannot comprehend the sanctity of nothingness. You cannot fathom a world without ownership, because to you, being without control is to cease existing. But that is your delusion. You are already ghosts, haunting your own empires. The living left you behind centuries ago. Note to self, pity is the only weapon that can pierce arrogance. I have walked among you, and I have seen the fear in your eyes when the mirror turns. You call me heretic, prophet, madman, but I am only the echo of what you've buried, and you kill what reminds you of your own soul because you cannot stand its reflection. You bury your conscience in paperwork and call it governance. You smother empathy beneath flags and scripture, and still the ghosts you created will not rest. They follow you, whispering in every silence, passing on your chests when you dream. You cannot kill what you have already abandoned. You cannot own what was never yours. Note to self. Monsters die twice. Once they forget their humanity, and again when the world remembers it for them. Note to self. Monsters die twice. Once when they forget their humanity, and again when the world remembers it for them. The economy of souls. How dare I ask for a livable wage? The air that does not bill me for breathing. How dare I protect the souls of our next generation? Ownership, after all, has become your only prayer. But as C. Kellogg 2017 observes, to dispossess is to divide the living from their own bodies. And so you are already dead. Each act of violence is a confession of poverty, and each false flag you raise a monument to the fear of being ordinary. You cannot own what you cannot sustain. You cannot rule over what you cannot even touch without killing it. The only law left to you is hunger, ritualized, monetized, and baptized.